Hello everyone. My name is Joe Iconis. I am the writer of Love and Hate Nation, and we were just supposed to start this off with a song. The whole idea was that the lights would come up, everyone would be clapping, and we would just go right into this song. That clearly is not happening because I'm speaking right now. The reason I'm speaking is I just wanted to give you a little bit of context for the song you're going to hear. So Love and Hate Nation, it's the story of Susannah Son, played by the incredible Amina Faye. Amina, stand up and wave. There she is. So Susannah Son is a 16-year-old African American girl. In 1962, she's been raised by white parents her whole life. She's had a very sort of strange upbringing, and through a series of events, she gets sent to the National Reformatory for Girls, aka Nation. And we see this in the prologue of the show, which is just a few minutes long. And Susannah goes from this suburban life in Connecticut to this juvenile nation. And when she gets there, she's confronted with all of these young women who are fairly terrifying. They're fighting and they're smoking and they're like no other human beings that Susannah has ever seen in her whole life. And they all kind of size her up, and then they sing this song which introduces Susannah and the audience to all of the characters of Love and Hate Nation. And I think that's the only info that you need, except just know, because there's a lyric about this, that the character of Judith Ramon, who is, yes, of course, played by Tatiana Wexler, the amazing Tatiana Wexler, she has an eye patch. So pretend that Tatiana has an eye patch, and pretend that everyone is smoking at all times. Life and Hate Nation.
There may be L-O-V-E outside, but in here, it's nothing but H-A-T-E. Hate Nation, let me tell you about it. Hate Nation, from the cell we shouted. Life in Hate Nation, a sad situation for girls like us. I'ma say it again, look out. Hate Nation, there's no breaking free of Hate Nation, our reality of life in Hate Nation, a bad situation for girls like us. Alright, for girls like us. Somebody give me a light. Now come on, everybody. Susie looks sweet, and we don't want to scare her. Susie, I am Dorothy Donaldson, a happy Southern homemaker through and through.
She's from Buttsville, New Jersey.
No, I ain't shit for brains. Little old me from a place as unrefined as New Jersey? Well, just the thought gives me the vapors.
She's a criminal mimic. They locked her up for doing impersonations of Hoboken businessmen over the phone. I am
Brenda Ratowski.
Nickname Rat. Brooklyn born and raised. That is until I got nailed for theft.
Well, what did you steal?
You writing a book?
Rat gets us our cigarettes.
I'm a smuggler. You need something snuck in or stuck out of any situation. I'm your mule. The ceiling's cracking and it's full of a mold, and it's quite nerve-wracking cause the structure's old. When a door closed, it made the whole room shake, and the floor goes boom, shit, boom, rattle, rattle, quake.
They're running out of bread and the end is near. Most of the other girls fled. We're the last ones here.
Not a great scene in the joint, but it'll do.
Only 18.
At which point it's toodaloo.
Out in the world, its own kind of curse.
Where it never gets better, it only gets worse. Gets worse. Hate Nation, let me tell you about it. Hate Nation, this is hell, don't doubt it. Life in Hate Nation, there's no reparation for girls like us. Alright, for girls like us.
Somebody give me a light. Hola, my name is...
Her name is Kitty.
That's my name. When speaking to me, you may call me Kitty. When speaking about me, you may call me she or her.
Kitty's father is the richest real estate mogul in town.
So I am hidden away here like a sexually deviant princess in a tower.
Princess, my asshole.
Miss Congeniality.
Who is she?
Who is she?
Judith Ramone. Judith Ramone.
Judith Ramone got no patience for the new girls.
All the rumors about her are true.
Judith Ramone got no patience for the new girls, and least of all you. I mind my business and you best mind yours. Every girl for herself behind these juvie doors. If you bug me, I'm a
Slash, a smack, she gets ugly.
none of them will have your back. This place ain't buddy as it seems. We look out for ourselves cause we on different teams. And before you ask, the reason I'm in here is I cut a guy's dick off. So don't try anything. And don't ask about my eye.
Judith is my best friend.
No, I ain't.
My name is. Her name is Gloria Meeks. Gloria Meeks.
But my nickname is Yaya. I'm an inventor.
What do you invent?
Things that burn holes in things, things that explode things. One day I'm gonna work in science fiction pictures, making special effects. I'm great with liquids.
So, Miss 20 Questions, what are you in for?
Me? I burned down my school. I love that.
Do you have burn marks all over your arms and stuff?
Let me get a look.
Oh, no.
Killjoy.
Maybe you could burn this place down.
Why don't you just try to escape?
Do we want to get out?
Do we want to break free?
Of course. But what's the point?
We're locked in a tower without any power.
We waited out until it's time to blow this joint. Hate Nation, don't even try to resist.
Hate Nation, it'll leave you tired and pissed.
Hate Nation, bad as it is here inside.
Hate Nation, we stay 'cause our hands are tied.
Hate Nation,
No way for us to rebel.
Hate Nation.
And so we deal with this hell.
Betty Crocker's probably clutching her pearls, but America just really fucking sucks for girls. Hey Nation, let me tell you about it. Hey Nation, from a cell we shouted life, and Hey Nation, a sad situation for girls like us. Hey Nation, there's no breaking free of. Hey Nation, a reality of life, and Hey Nation, a bad situation for girls like us. Get hip to the beds for girls like us. It's what it is for girls like us.
Always putting up a fight.
For girls like us, alright, alright, alright. Somebody give me a light.
I'm going over here now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Heywood, and I am going to be moderating a conversation with Joe Iconis and
Hey.
also with the director and choreographer of Love and Hate Nation, who will join us shortly. Joe, it's good to see you here again.
It's good to see you here too.
Last time we were here, we were talking about a little show called Be More Chill.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to talk about Love and Hate Nation. I think that one thing that's so special about Works in Process at the Guggenheim is that we do get a first glance into a new piece of art. And that performance is one of the first times any audience has heard that song performed. So while a lot of interviews that I do have to do with like deep knowledge of a project, this is one where I'm going to be learning along with you about Love and Hate Nation, and I'm really thrilled by that. So
I'm happy. I could lie about everything and you'd never know.
We wouldn't. We wouldn't know.
No one would.
As long as your lies got us to buy tickets, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as they're in service of...
Love and Hate Nation is a musical that stars Hugh Jackman.
He couldn't be here
He
tonight.
couldn't be here tonight because he's very shy.
I will say Hugh Jackman may not be in this show, but you have some superstars.
They're incredible.
They're
please.
amazing.
Aren't they amazing? Look at them.
Let's start at the beginning. A very good place to start.
Please, yeah.
Let's tell me about how Love and Hate Nation came to be. Specifically, let's start with the story.
Yeah. So Love and Hate Nation. I'm gonna take you way back, and if this is boring, tough, I guess. I was gonna say please
have
stop
an
me.
hour.
But yeah, we have an hour. Great. So Love and Hate Nation is a musical that is it's totally original, right? I wrote the music and lyrics and the book, and it's not based on anything. It's just it's its own thing, right? And so. And so this is sort of how it came to be. There's a few sort of points of origin of how this musical ended up existing. The first one is that I, in addition to writing musicals, I also write songs. I write just real people songs. I do concerts a lot with this group called Iconis and Family, and we do these songs that I write at these concerts. And so in 2012, I really wanted to write a love song. I wanted to write a song that felt like a sort of classic I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love song. I don't have a lot of those. And so I ended up writing this song called I Was a Teenage Delinquent, ! And
that was your idea for a love song, the title of a love song.
Yeah. It's like my brain processes things in a strange way, and yeah. More about that later. And so I wrote this love song called I Was a Teenage Delinquent, and the song was a duet for two women, and the story of this song was two women in a juvie hall for girls in the 60s, and they were both in love with the other one, and neither one of them knew it, and then by the end of the song, they got together, and things went well, as things tend to do in songs that are 5 minutes long.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So you say so I wrote this song about two women in a juvie hall in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Where did that idea come from?
That idea...
Is that just something you were just you pulled out of the air?
No, I mean, most of my ideas sort of come from, I usually fixate on things, little strains of things that interest me, and they sort of float around in my brain, and then it's usually one strain and another strain kind of find each other, and then an idea is born. And so for that song, I had really wanted to write something that was musically in the style of girl group songs of the 60s, so the Crystals, the Chiffons, the Shangri-Las, so something that was like that. And I've just always been really fascinated by kind of bad girl movies of the 50s and 60s, sort of, teenage delinquent movies. I guess I've been fascinated by teenage delinquent movies in general, like Rebel Without a Cause and The Delinquents and stuff like that, but I've always loved films that have a group of women essentially behaving very badly and kicking ass. And so I thought, it would be so fun to combine those two things in a love song, and that's what I did. And so I wrote this love song. I liked it a lot, we performed it a lot, and I always thought, one day I should get back to that, and I should turn that into something else. And the song was pretty simple, and so you couldn't really take the song and turn it into a musical, but I thought, there's something there. There's something there with this idea of young love in a juvie hall in the 60s, told in this sort of girl group musical style. So that was happening in my brain for a few years. In 2016, my great friend and frequent collaborator, John Simpkins, he's a director. He's directed a ton of my stuff. He's just the best director in the whole world. He took over the musical theater program at Penn State. And as part of him taking over this program, he introduced this commissioning project where he was going to commission musical theater writers to write a new musical for the Penn State senior class. And the whole idea was that the musical theater writer could write whatever she or he wanted. The only thing they had to do was have it be a musical that was performable by the senior class. And so John called me up and he said, you know, and this was like in the spring, let's say, and he said, this class is gonna start in the summer. I'm sorry, not the summer. The class is going to start in the fall, so it was a few months away, and I want to commission someone to write a musical, and I'd like to commission you to write a musical for us. And you have two choices. You can either sort of write the musical now and have the show be rehearsed as you're writing it, because this was so close to when they had to start this class, or you could take the next year and you could write the musical over the course of the next year, and then we'll start the rehearsals a year from now. And so I thought about it, and I said to him, when would I get the money for writing the musical? Like, when would the commission pay out? Is it the kind of thing where I would get the money now regardless, and then I can, you know, can rehearse it in a year? Or is it the kind of thing where if we said, oh, we're gonna rehearse it in a year, you'll get the money in a year? And John said, well, no, if you don't start writing it now and you know, we have to put it off for a year, then you would get the money in a year. And so I said, I'd like to write it now. And
I'd like that money now.
Yes, because musical theater writers need to pay their rent too. And so I started writing this show, and it was this bizarre experience where I was writing it, and as I was writing it, young people in Pennsylvania were rehearsing it as I was writing. And so it was kind of a frantic first draft, you know, because I knew, oh, if I don't write anything this week, there's going to be young people, there's going to, you know, the youth of America is going to be without something to perform in class this week. And that was just, you know, it's a lot of pressure when, you know, the youth of America is just waiting for you to finish that song.
Did the senior class at Penn, was it all women?
So the class was, it was 8 women and then 1 guy. And so I thought, what can I write for 8 women and 1 guy?
Because that was required.
Exactly.
So does that mean that if you'd written for the following year, you'd have had a different demographic to work with?
I guess. I mean, I guess we would have been here talking about Love and Hate Nation, the story of an all-male reformatory school.
It'd be interesting to look at what those demographics for the next year's Penn State class were.
I mean, I really lucked out. And so I was like, you know, for me, I was like, oh, great, this is the perfect opportunity for me to write my my Juvie Hall female-centered musical. And the thing that was crazy was that, so this was the fall of 2016 when I started this project, and I knew I sort of had the environment, right? I had this idea of the Juvie Hall, I had the sound, and I knew I wanted it to be a love story. I wanted it to be a love story between 2 girls in this Juvie Hall, but the sort of larger story, the sort of larger, like, why are we watching this musical? Why does it exist? What are the ideas? What are the themes that are at play here? I didn't quite have my head wrapped around what that should be, and then the election happened, and that guy was elected president, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this show needs to be about America. This show needs to be about what is going on in America today, and that was when it all sort of clicked, where I felt like, oh, the way that I would like to write about America today is to write about a crumbling Juvie Hall in 1962.
Is that how the Juvie Hall got its name?
Nation, yeah. So it's the National Reformatory for Girls, aka Nation, because I believe
that's very subtle of you.
It's subtlety is for suckers, okay? It's a musical about America, and the name of the Juvie Hall is Nation. No one will make a mistake about what I'm trying to say. But as I wrote it, it became more and more about that, right? It became more and more about America and about issues that so many people who I know, people in my life, were facing, and so many and issues that people I don't know in my life are facing, and what sort of ended up happening was the whole Juvie Hall kind of became this sort of cross section of of marginalized populations, you know, and so there's so many like issues with the capital I in our show, but they all sort of found their way into the show in a really organic way, where it was like, it's, you know, if I'm writing about America, if I'm writing about what's going on right now, there's no way to not talk about, you know, race and sexuality and gender and so many, you know, big issues and ideas. And for me, the trick was I wanted to talk about all of that, but I still wanted the thing to be a love story, and I still wanted it to feel fun and misbehaved. And, you know, I didn't want to make a musical where it felt like I was sort of forcing you to eat your oatmeal. You know, I wanted to make a musical where it's like you could actually see the joy in these characters' lives. You know, these characters weren't just their issues, they were actually human beings. They just happened to be going through some stuff.
I love it. And like the little I know about the show, having not seen it because nobody's seen it.
She knew, yeah.
Is that, you know, it's easy in this era to feel like sometimes we are criminalized just by existing. And I think that is true for women. I think it's true for every marginalized group. And to set this in Nation, which is also a prison, is such a direct statement about that without actually just like hitting somebody over the head with it.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I won't know till I actually see it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not subtle, but it's, you know, I think, you know, there's elegance. There's elegance in the subtlety of Love and Hate Nation, or maybe there's not. I don't know. We're in the middle of rehearsals right now, and so it's so weird to talk about this show. Like, yes, it's the best show that's ever been written. You're gonna have such a great time. It's so much fun. When in fact, I'm really like, well, I don't know if it's any good. I think it is, but nobody's seen it. We haven't had a performance.
Well, just remember the program's called Works in Process.
Right.
And we'll just talk about the process then.
We'll talk about the process, and then
we can't talk about the work because the work isn't completed yet,
Yes.
but it's in process.
It's in process, and it will be up to you all to decide if it works or not.
So make sure you call now. I think that one thing that keeps it from feeling super dark and heavy is this 60s pop feel.
Yeah.
Because those girl groups, you know, a lot of those songs were, at least the tone and the musicality of them is pop.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and you want to turn it up and dance, you know, do like a sock hop to it. You know?
Yeah. Well, the thing that I was always so in love with girl group songs, and when I say girl group songs, everyone in this audience knows what I'm talking about, right? Ish, yes, yeah, like Leader of the Pack, and Then He Kissed Me. Be My Baby, Do Run Run, that kind of stuff. And the stuff that I loved about that is that the music of those songs is so like light and frothy, and you know they feel like you know, like the songs feel like little like bonbons or something, right? It's just there's this very sort of like sugariness to all that music, but a lot of times the lyrical content of those songs was really dark, and it was, you know, I mean, in Leader of the Pack is about, you know, this motorcycle chick whose boyfriend dies in a horrific car accident. There were so many car accident songs, and it's like these, like, you know, these really infectious, bubbly tunes where the actual lyrics are just about, you know, minors dying in car wrecks, and there's a really nice tension there to me, and so that was something that I was excited to explore, you know. And so all the music in Love and Hate Nation is this stuff that feels, you know, it feels bouncy and it feels melodic and fun, and it feels like music you can hum and music you can really get inside. But the stuff that they're talking about is super serious and super heavy.
Is the song that you wrote as a standalone still in the piece?
It ended up in the piece in a sort of mutated way. And so the initial song isn't in there, but there's elements of it in the piece.
How do you go from a song that's like a snapshot into a story that goes from A to Z? Do you outline it? Do you think about other moments, like other snapshots from this world, and then weave them together?
Yeah, you know, with Love and Hate Nation in particular, the thing that kicked me off was the ending, which I obviously won't talk about, because you need to pay to see it. Can't talk about it. works. But once I got the end of the story, it was like, oh, I know how this story plays out because I know how it's going to end. So I had that, and then the story just kind of unfolds onto itself. You know, like I said, I had the pressure, but also the bonus of knowing that people were rehearsing this material as I was writing it, and so I think that it made me write in a way that was a little bit more fired up, maybe than I normally write. You know, I think I overthink my writing a ton, right? So like when I'm writing something, usually I'm obsessing over ideas. I'm really like I'm like a perfectionist when the writing gets on the page, and then as soon as I get with actors, I get really messy with it, and I like when actors, you know, put their own stamp on it, and then I change things. But it takes me a lot to like get it on the page. But with Love and Hate Nation, I really was just kind of like, you know, getting stuff out of me because I needed to. And I think that sort of urgency and that sort of electricity, I think, is kind of in the writing, you know, and it's in the characters, and it just started to inform everyone. It started to inform these young women and the way they behaved, the way they sounded, all of it.
Do you think that you'll seek out that kind of writing process in the future?
Like getting paid first? Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, right, like workshopping it as it's being written.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love that, and like I'm the sort of writer who I love the like old school idea of like, you know, you haven't written a note, and then, you know, like a producer calls, and it's like, we open in 3 weeks in Tulsa. There's already a poster. Now you just got to write a show. It's like that thing is really, it's like fun to me. It's like,
I feel like they do that on reality shows.
They
where they're
do,
like,
yeah.
You have a runway show, and you know, in 2 days, create a garment.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, create a musical.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a way that I like creating. I like the pressure of that. I like the pressure of knowing, oh, there's going to be an audience to see the stuff that you're doing, so it better be good, and
That
it better make
reminds me
sense.
didn't you do something similar when you were writing for Smash? With the TV show? Should we not talk about that?
Oh, no, we can, yeah.
Because what I remember hearing is that songwriters were given like, okay, we need a song for this scene, go.
They definitely did that. Well, the reason that I laughed is because all of the songs that I wrote like that, where they were like, we need a song for this moment, where Karen Cartwright is gonna sing this thing, and you need to write for that. They didn't use any of those songs that I wrote for that, and so I feel like talking about that process just makes me seem like I'm really not good at this thing that I'm saying I love to do, which like maybe is the truth. But it's, I mean, that's it. But yeah, I did have to do that.
Do you want to fire me right now?
No, of course I don't want to fire you.
Well, you had some beautiful songs on that show.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so when you in work, I'm fascinated by this idea of working with the cast as the thing is being written.
Yeah.
I can imagine that the cast members brought a lot to the characters.
Sure.
And that I bet, did the actors you were working with end up creating elements of the characters that you didn't anticipate, or that you might not have come up with if you were sitting alone in a room writing a musical?
For sure. You know, I think the initial draft, the show was really different than it is now, and so that felt very much like early stages of it. And so anytime I do any show, the actors who inhabit the roles influence the roles. They just do. Because of the way I write, I like to wrap the characters around the human beings who play them. But it really was in subsequent, you know, the readings and developmental steps of the show where the characters really started to take shape. And, you know, I have to say that the current cast this is the cast where it feels like, oh, these human beings are drastically informing every aspect of the writing. And, you know, and it's little things where it's like, you know, vocal eccentricities that someone might have that then work its way into the lyric, or it's, you know, bigger things where, you know, ideas where an actor isn't fully getting what I'm trying to do in the writing, and it makes me think, well, this person knows their character better than I do, and so I better write something that makes sense to them because they are the character. And, you know, and the other thing too is that Love and Hate Nation it's a musical that is, I am a cis straight white man, And this musical is about everyone but cis straight white men. And it's something that it's the story that I wanted to tell, and it's the story that I wanted to write. And so for me, you know, to be working with a cast who are not cis straight white men, I can't imagine a world where I wouldn't be collaborating with them to hear their perspectives and to hear their point of views on everything, on their own characters, on other people's characters, just because it's, you know, it's how I'm, you know, I'd like to think I'm an okay writer, but I have not lived the life that these human beings who I'm in the room with have lived. And so just by the, you know, sheer nature of that, the process is so collaborative and so open, just because it, you know, it needs to be.
I really appreciate that. I think that the idea that you're coming in with a story and with a script and then saying, tell me if I got anything wrong based on your real life experience is crucial, because I think so many times, both in art and in life, and I can speak from my own experience, that sometimes men will say, you know, that's not what a woman would do. And, you know, it's like, well, you know. So, I think that maybe I have more of an idea of that than you do.
Right.
So
Well, you didn't go to graduate musical theater writing school.
Let's talk about Two River Theater,
Yeah.
because I know that they have been instrumental in your career, and that this musical might not exist if it wasn't for that institution.
It simply wouldn't. I mean, Two River, you know, obviously they commissioned Be More Chill, and they not only commissioned it, but they produced it. You know, a lot of times regional theaters, they will commission you as a writer to write something, but that doesn't mean that they'll actually do the show. It just means that they're going to give you some money to develop it and write it. And every theater is different. Some theaters, they give you a little bit of money and then you never hear from them again. Some theaters are like super involved before they get to a place where you never hear from them again. But Two River, they really nurtured the development of Be More Chill. And then, you know, they paid for our cast album. Like Be More Chill happened because our cast album blew up and went viral and all of that. And that cast album never would have been made because there was no producer attached to the show that had any money. And cast albums cost an exorbitant amount of money to make. And Bob and Joan Recknitz at Two River Theater, they just paid for it because they believed in the show. And that's how, you know, everything great that has happened in my life since then is because of that. And so it's a theater that I am not only indebted to, but really, really love. They've been so great to me.
So when you had the opportunity to, if there had been if there's competition for where a new musical of yours is going to be, I can imagine that your loyalty to them makes you want to take it there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, and like they're very nice to me, but I think that I felt so strongly that Love and Hate Nation should be at Two River. I was really like doing the hard sell. Like I feel like I was like beating down their door because I wanted it so bad. And like they were you know, the Two River was very welcoming to me, of course, but like they're working on a lot of shows. You know, it's like I'm not the only game in town, but I was so obsessed with doing the show there, and so I was really happy that they let me do it.
I'm excited to bring out your director and choreographer.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we should hear some more music first.
Oh my gosh,
Do you think this is a good time for that?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a great time.
Before you go over to the piano, will you just tell us about what we're going to hear?
I sure will. Yeah. So you're gonna hear two songs back to back. The first song is this tune that is sung by this character who is we'll call her the love interest in the musical. And so our leading lady is Susannah Son, who we met. That's Amina. Amina, wave and remind everyone. That's Amina. We remember her. And then her love interest is this 17-year-old young woman who is the coolest chick ever to set foot in Juvie Hall. She's like Danny Zuko and James Dean and Gina Gershon combined. And she wears this badass black leather jacket, and her name is Sheila Nail, and she's played by Kelly McIntyre. Kelly, wave. And so when we meet Sheila, she's been in solitary confinement, and they throw her back in the floor with all of the other girls, and all the girls are like, Sheila, you're back from solitary. And the girls tell Susannah that Sheila holds the record for for escaping juvie hall more than any other girl has ever escaped juvie hall in the history of juvie hall. And so Susannah is like, well, how did you do it? How did you escape that many times? And Sheila, you know, super cool. She's like, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And all of the girls say, tell her about it, Sheila. And then she sings this song. The song is about, we'll say 7 minutes long. I'm just warning you, because if you have to use the restroom, you can't. You won't be able to. We're in this together for the next 7 minutes. And yeah, I think it's going to go well, though, right? Wouldn't you say? Cool.
And then after that one, you'll tell us about what the next one is?
I'll tell you about the next one after. I've spoken too much already.
First time I tried it, it was late at night. I tied some bed sheets together, tied them up real tight. Tied one end to a drain pipe, threw the other out the window. Looked past the edge, 40 feet below. I threw my leg over, thought, here I go, and started climbing down the side of the building, climbing right down. Got looks from the squirrels in the trees and feeling the breeze across my nightgown. Knew I was a few feet from freedom, really just a few feet from freedom. Then I heard a stop right there, put your hands in the air, and I knew that my plan was a fail. Well, getting caught is the worst, and that was only the first of the 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. Second time I tried it was another day. There were bed sheets involved, but in a different way. I hid inside the laundry bin. You would not believe the things I saw. Waited for hours, thought I was gonna get stuck, and then the orderly starts pushing me towards his truck, which meant that we was headed out of the building, headed right out. I was covered in clothes, through a hole in some hose. I saw a light sprout. Knew I was a few feet from freedom, really just a few feet from freedom. And I heard the orderly shout, look, a foot sticking out, and he lifted off my veil. Oh yeah, the warden was beckoned, and so go the second of the 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. 3 failed escape attempts of Sheila Nail. And after that I said, forget the clever plans. I saw an opportunity and I just ran. Got as far as the highway, stuck out my thumb. A car slowed up and here the warden come. She called me a filthy malcontent, and yeah, that was exactly how the 3rd time went. But that's not really how it happened, it's just what I say. 'Cause I did get in the car, and as it drove away, I thought of where I came from, and I thought of where I'd go. Oh, where am I gonna sleep tonight? I don't know. I ain't got no family, got no coin in my purse. Yeah, life was bad at school, life before it was worse. I ain't been a civilian since 53, and I'm sure
scent. The last time I tried it was a different affair. I tied some bed sheets together and I stood on a chair. Tied one end to a drain pipe, the other around my neck. Ah, heck. Without any prep, I took a step, and I could feel the air leave my body, air leave my body. It got real tight. I never copped to this type of shit, but I have to admit, it didn't feel right. I was just a few breaths from freedom, but it didn't feel much like freedom. And then the drain pipe broke, and I let out a croak. And the water rained down on me. I don't believe in signs, but I can read between the lines. So I guess this is where I'm supposed to be.
And with the rain pouring down inside of the building, pouring right down, right down.
I lit a hidden cigarette as I stood soaking wet in my nightgown. Barred cages define my freedom. Now I make my own kind of freedom. Running away is a bore, so I don't do that no more. I see a battle, I fight. I'm my own shining white knight. I may be fucked in my head, but hey, at least I ain't dead. And babe, I'm gonna prevail. But now you ought to derive that, 'cause I fought, I survived. And the three-man escape attempts of Sheila.
Kelly McIntyre. Kelly McIntyre. Hugh Jackman, who? So listen, this next tune is, it's a song that happens at the end of Act 1, so you know it's pretty good. Sorry, I was really feeling myself there. Happens at the end of Act 1. It is sung by Susannah Son. And as you can imagine, because it's the end of Act 1, lots of things have happened over the course of the last hour and 8 minutes. And Susannah is in this place where she's just completely stuck. It feels like every avenue in her life is one that leads to a dead end, or worse, usually much worse. And she finds herself alone in a situation where she is literally trapped, and she is looking at a poster of what has been referred to in the show as the perfect American family. It's a beautiful blonde wife who's bringing some food to her beautiful white husband, and there's a whole bunch of beautiful white blonde-headed children playing around them, and so Susannah Son stares at this picture and sings the song.
Every girl has seen the picture in the picture books of the perfect family. Daughter Junior and the mother smiling as she cooks, looking pretty as can be. I wish I looked like the lady in the picture books, like a use her as my guide. I'm in a trap. I need a map. Because I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. And I want to know which way my life will go. I'm tired of grasping and fumbling and gasping. Someone help me see my possibilities. Will I be able to cope? I hope. And the role they say is normal don't appeal to me. Anyway, it's one I'd never be able to play. They can pretend I'm Betty Crocker, but I'll never be. As the world reminds me every day. And I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. And I want to know which way my life will go. I'm tired of stalling and lifting, then falling. Someone show me, please, my possibilities. Will I be able to cope? I hope. This is the way that you make his dinner. This is the way that you get a little thinner. This is the way you fit in with the fashion. This is the way that you lose your passion. This is the way that the feelings smother. This is the way I become my mother. That is the pill bottle on the shelf. What is the way to become myself, become myself, become myself? Will I be proud of the life that I'm allowed? If I do not win, will I just give in? 'Cause I'm tired of waiting and deliberating. I just want to know which way my life will go. I'm tired of grasping and fumbling and gasping. Someone help me see my possibilities. I'm tired of crying, defending and dying. I just want to know which way my life will go. Do I throw in the towel? Take the easy way out? Do I rage? Do I moan? No. I hope. I hope. I hope. Oh, 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 oh. I hope. Oh, oh, oh. I hope. I hope. I hope. I hope. I
Amina Faye. Amina Faye.
Joe, allow me to give you your first review. You've got a hit on your hands.
Cool, thanks.
Let's bring out John Simpkins and Maite Natalio, the director and choreographer of Love and Hate Nation.
Yay.
All right, John, I want to start with you because I want to know what Joe Iconis was like as a freshman in college. You guys go way back.
We do go way back. Yeah, we met. Joe was an undergrad at NYU, and I was a grad student, and then I subsequently stayed on a little bit as a faculty member, and we just sort of began to work together. The easiest version of the story is that I was looking for somebody to play and musical direct a production of a musical that I was working on there, and I had only heard of Joe as somebody who plays the piano really loudly and aggressively, and there was a particular voice teacher colleague of mine who said, "I'd really like for you to use a lot of people on this particular list, and I'd really love for you not to use Joe Iconis for this project because he just plays the piano so loudly that maybe our young singers might have a little trouble with that." And I said, "That's a guy I want to meet." And so we got to know each other a little bit through that, and stayed working together. And I think from my perspective, it was I didn't know it at the time, but what I was finding out was that this was a person who was writing stories that I both thought I knew how to help tell and stories that I wanted to help tell for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And you guys have been working together ever since.
Yeah, we celebrated our 20 year this year.
We did.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much.
So John, you're the
happy.
one who took over the drama program at Penn and called Joe and said, "We can give you money now, or we can give you money
I
later."
did. Yeah, those details of that story are eerily correct.
Yeah.
They are. He told you the right story. So yes, I did. One of the things that I wanted to do, part of my life is directing, and part of my life is running this musical theater program at Penn State. And one of the things that I wanted to do immediately upon getting there is see if I could inject some professional writers into that environment there. And there was nobody better that I knew of, both from my own work and from other people that I'd worked with, nobody better to write for authentic young people stories than Joe. And so I called him up and thankfully got very lucky to get a little window into his schedule for that time. I think that young people in that situation and in all situations are frequently handed scripts and characters and stories that don't relate to them. They are years and years old, and they are years and years away from their ability to understand them. And we need, as I hope you're seeing tonight, we need to hand our young people things that matter to them, things that identify with them, and things that they believe in and represent authentically. So that's why we did that.
Maite, how did you come onto the project?
I'm the newest member, I think, of this thing.
We can call it a family. I think we can call it a family.
But we're celebrating like our 3-month anniversary.
Yeah, this is our 3 months.
wow, okay.
Yeah. We're serious now. This is like steady.
Yeah, around three months, you have to be like, are we like,
What are we?
Is this a thing?
Yeah,
So you came on specifically for Two River.
Yes, for Two River, John reached out to me. I came through recommendations, so I don't know who, and we had a phone chat first, and he sent me Revolution Song, and I loved it. And he just talked about like my process and what I'm into, and I'm like, I don't like cookie cutter stuff. I don't like to do, I'm not really like the traditional musical theater girl, so I don't know like what the avenue is, but that's not really me. Mm-hmm. And then he brought me on, did a reading workshop just to work on the book in August, and met the cast, and I was sold. Yes, and I was here.
I get the feeling from the little that I've seen that there aren't a lot of like time steps and jazz hands.
No.
What can you tell us about the choreography?
Well, the best part is like the music is infused with like 1960s, late 50s vibe, which is, I feel like in American dance, like one of the richest moments in dance, not only with like what was happening in like the classical world, but just in social dancing. Like there's I was looking up like the 1960s dances, and there's like hundreds, like the swim, the pony, the watusi, the twist, the monkey, the bus stop. And then like
they have the best names.
Yeah, it's all, it's like all these dances, and I was like, so just that as a starting point, I'm like, the opportunity is endless. And then on top of that, putting the story on top of that, which is more like rebellious, you know, and the girl groups of that era, like their moves to me were like what I would say more boring, but they were just like very like clean and precise. And what I was into in that era, and what I still am, is like what the boy bands are doing. So I was like, this is a great opportunity to use that you know, the girl group sound, but put a little bit more of like the funk that the men were doing, especially because these girls, I'm sure, when they were watching television, they were like, I want to do what he's doing, instead of like the pretty, like cross your legs, like, you know. So I think I'm trying to find a balance there, and you know, this is not like a show where it's a cookie cutter ensemble, so every girl needs to feel kind of authentic. So I feel like it's a very collaborative moment when we're just trying to find our relationship with the girls and how they like to move and what's good on their bodies.
I think that what I'm so fascinated by about the time period this show takes place in is that the women that we do see in the media from that era are very put together. They are like the poster that you mentioned. You know, it's I mean, I guess it's not exactly the same era as like the Cleavers, but you know, that kind of family, and the women in particular, we didn't see a lot of like rebellious characters. And so it doesn't surprise me that behind closed doors at a place where they are by definition rebels, that they are not doing those perfect, you know, unison sway and swings that the girls in the matching sequin dresses would do on television.
Yeah, and you know, and I think that the show itself is really specifically set in '62. It's really specifically set right before these, you know, insane, you know, earth-shattering events of '63 and '64 happened, because I like to think of it as like the last days of the '50s. It's like the last days where, from, you know, what these young women would have seen, rebellion wasn't a thing. You know, this idea of like unrest was not yet, I think, bubbling on the surface. And so what we see is this group of young people who are totally cut off from society, you know, in nation, who sort of rebel organically. You know, it's like they sort of discover the tools to rebel and the tools to have a revolution in their own little world.
And what a better way to represent that than through dance and through movement. I imagine that, you know, I feel like that is how people rebelled, and in some cases still do.
I also think one of the great things about this show is that the media-driven 50s and early 60s images in our heads are not obviously what we're showing, and I think it's emblematic of a lot of Joe's work that he takes that sort of traditional camera angle and sort of swings it over here to look and see if he can find other people who are not necessarily the people who are standing in front of the camera. And I think that there had to have been people in the 50s and early 60s who felt as aggressively and authentically and as rebellious as them. They just weren't getting the microphone or the camera lens. And we're getting a chance, I think, through this piece and through their incredible, unique and authentic and aggressive, rebellious behavior, to be able to look at that in a way that nobody's ever had a chance to see before.
Yeah, and you know, and I think, and that's sort of the spirit of the whole show. You know, and in the opening number, in Life and Hate Nation, you know, there's that running refrain of somebody give me a light. And they're, you know, specifically talking, of course, about cigarettes. But I mean, it makes me smile every time we rehearse it, because it is like, it's literally, you know, these people who normally don't get the story centered on them, and these people who normally don't get to be in the spotlight, you know, literally, you know, saying, somebody give me a light. You know, it's like I always hear the me underlined in that phrase, and I think that's what the show is. It's like giving a light to these people who don't always get it, but, you know, deserve it and demand it.
And right at that moment, someone named Son walks in.
Yeah.
Actually, I love the names Son and Nail. I feel like one is so bright and warm, and the other is so like hardened. And I can feel that, like, being new into the system when you're still sort of like glowing and free, and then to be like hardened by the experience. It isn't S-U-N though, right? It's S-O-N?
It's S-O-N, but it's, I mean, that's all in there, you know, it's all part of the vibe.
Okay, so it's mid-October now. The premiere is November 9th.
Yeah.
What where are you in the process? Is rehearsal happening every day? Is it full calls? Are people in costume yet? Are you doing scene work? Are you doing song work? Like, for those of us who have never seen a musical
Yes.
in process,
All of the above.
them, yeah. What does a day look like? And are you on the stage at Two River? Are you in a rehearsal room? Take us, pull the curtain back and let us know what it looks like for you right now in process.
We're in a very beautiful, very artistic forward building called Two River, where every person that you meet is nicer and more talented than the person that you just encountered in that building. It's unbelievable. It's the most utopian regional theater situation that I've ever been around. It's awesome. And so we arrived very early, and they arrived very early, and today we got a chance to, today we rehearsed starting at 9 a.m., and part of our day today was running all of Act 1 and a portion of Act 2, and I looked over at some of them. There's a lot of fights in the show. I mean, these girls don't play nice all the time. And also their vocabulary inside a juvie hall just also happens to be physical. You know, if I want that, I'm gonna pull your hair to get it. And then 2 seconds later, I might say, hey, thanks, cool, and move on about my day. It's just a kind of a language of the show. And I looked over after the particular fight scene at the end of the first act where, I won't give it away. It's amazing, and there's a lot of fighting. And I looked over and I looked down the line, and every person was sort of hunched over on their knees, breathing very, very heavily. And we took a break at the intermission, and I thought, gosh, they're such good actors. And certainly all of them went and flopped on one of the rehearsal beds, just which is kind of emblematic of these women here. They're like no musical theater people that you've ever seen. They're aggressive, and they're angry, and they're authentic, and they're passionate, and they're about process, and they're about unique and individual ways about going through their work. And they will, pardon my French, they'll beat the shit out of each other in rehearsal if that's what it takes to get to where it needs to be. And it's been thrilling for us to watch that. So that's kind of where we are. No costumes yet, but we're deep, deep into the process. And if I could just talk a little bit about Joe for a second, I would say that the new pages that he's delivering into rehearsal as he is taking this show and wrapping it around these incredible artists have been stunning to watch. There's just a ton of new material in the middle of this thing. So excited to see where we go.
Sounds like a show I want to see.
Me too.
Does the fighting fall under choreography? Does it what? Does the fighting fall under choreography? Are you doing
So there's a fight choreographer.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
there's a professional Rocio who comes in and does the fight choreography. That's a whole nother thing, and they have 20 minutes of fight call before every show. That's gonna be really fun. But it's for safety, but they're really fun. I think that's another thing that's great about this show. It's these girls get to have fight call.
Yeah.
It's it's the best.
Yeah.
How much dramaturgy did you do about actual juvenile halls in the 60s?
I did a bunch of research when I was first starting out, and just read anything that I could, and continue to, and it's really horrifying what happened in these juvenile halls.
What's out there? Is it first person accounts?
Some. I mean, the stuff that's really something is there are so many sort of survivor groups of these places, because they were kind of, especially in the early 60s, it was kind of Wild West. It was sort of, as far as how they were governed and who ran them, it was kind of, there wasn't a lot of regulations. And so there are these juvies that when for kids to survive them, to literally for them to make it out alive, became this this badge of honor. And so I've read so many firsthand accounts, and it's really something. And so for me, I really committed up top to being okay, this is a fictionalized version of this. This is very much a musical theater version of what was happening. All of this stuff is based in truth, but if I tried to write a docu-musical about a juvie hall, there's no, just by nature of people singing would, I think, be terribly, offensive and just not appropriate. And so I tried my best to kind of honor the actual human beings who made it through this system, and in many cases didn't make it through the system. But it's a wild thing. It's really something.
Did you meet with any of these people?
No, I didn't. No. But man, I should have answered yes, right?
I don't think so necessarily, because like you said, you're not writing a docu-musical.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important when you're using source material to to allow yourself to fictionalize it. And I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything wrong with the fact that you did that. I mean, again, I asked out of curiosity,
Sure,
not
sure.
because I had a preconceived notion of what I had hoped you'd do.
Right, right.
All of my questions are coming from a genuine point
no,
of
of
like
course.
curiosity and love. And I think that it will be interesting to, I could see, for example, doing a talk back with
Oh my
someone
gosh.
who had
Yeah,
lived
yeah, yeah.
through it
Yeah.
and hear their take on it.
Right. Right.
But you know how like on movies and TV it'll be like this, you know, none of these people are based on actually any similarity to persons living or dead is
Yeah.
and I feel like that's if you had interviewed actual people, you might have risked like ripping off their stories instead of making up one of your own.
For sure. Yeah. And when I said I should have said yes, that wasn't because like that would have sounded great if I said yes. I spoke to 300 people. But it was really like, you know, it's like should I have? But I think that it's the show isn't about that. As much as the show is about a juvie hall in the 60s, it's about these human beings and it's about the things that they were going through, and that is what I've tried to, you know, be authentic to, right? And that is the stuff that I've, you know, it's funny because I've spoken to so many people and so many people's life experiences have ended up in this musical. It's just not specific to Juvie Hall. It's people who, you know, have moved about the world and have dealt with injustice and have dealt with prejudice and all that sort of stuff. And those are the stories that kind of firsthand found their way into the musical.
As you said, it's a story about America,
Yeah.
and no matter where it's set and when it's set, it's a story about America now.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know you have talked to a lot of people just by nature of being alive
Mm-hmm.
who have gone through these issues, you know.
Yeah, not hard to find people who have dealt with the stuff that they're dealing with at Hate Nation.
How much, you said new pages are arriving.
Every day.
So is there a point at which I know that like most theater productions have previews and then you freeze the show and then you have the official opening. Is there a point before previews begin when you try to get to a like pre-frozen final script, or does that just keep happening consistently until?
I was just going to say, from my perspective, because I'm the person that he delivers the new pages to get them in.
Yeah.
And I would say that we're both interested in working until somebody comes in and says, "Hey, there's an audience in the lobby," and they want to see what you have. And for us, that's on the first preview, and then we will get some time inside the week of previews that we're able to do. We'll get some rehearsal time to make the changes that we feel the most passionate about, and then we'll have to freeze it for this version on November the 15th, which is the official opening. So, but we'll work right up to that moment.
Is that script pages, songs too?
Sure, everything. You know, it's so funny. And in any process, it's the closer you get to, you know, opening, or the closer you get to the date you have to freeze the show by, just the type of things that you work on changes. And for me as a writer, you know, right now, if I decide, oh no, this show needs a brand new opening number, I can like kind of work it in. It would be impossible and it would wreck our process, but it would, you know, we could kind of get a new opening number in there. Like next week, that ship has sailed. But I could get like a half a number in.
Look at Maite, she's like, you better get me those songs now if you want me to choreograph them.
Maite is like, what is he doing right
But you
now?
know what?
Is he buttering me
it's
up?
like he was saying, it's like once, things are gonna change, and I keep telling them, it's like once we see it in the theater, like right now we're in the studio, we get to the theater, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna change all those steps. Not all of them, but you know, enough.
Yeah.
To make it work with the space, so it's like they understand that. They know
I'm glad to
that's
see
to
them
make
all
the show
smiling
better.
and nodding instead of being like, oh God, you told me I was gonna, you know.
No, it's just to make it better, and they also get it, and we're constantly asking, how does this feel to them? You know, it's about they can feel what feels good as well.
I would also say it's our job here and their job there to trust each other, that we aren't going to throw something too heavy at each other with not enough time. Right. I think that we have an immense amount of trust for each other, and so I'm just arrogant enough to throw them a new page 5 minutes before we open. No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Because I know that we have that base of work and process in the room, and I'll know the minute that I hand it to them whether it's okay to do that or not, because they'll tell me. And that's that show too.
What an amazing point in the process of a creation of something new. There's enough of it done that you know that you've got something, and there's enough still to do to be able to like craft it into what it will become. I mean, we're here in this like hallowed halls of the greatest art in the world, and we're talking about a piece of art that is on the brink of having a life outside of you.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me, like, my brain want to explode. Like, that feels like magic to me.
I'm so sorry.
Hopefully it won't explode all over this piece of art behind me. I was warned earlier that I couldn't gesticulate too wildly because this is a treasure behind me. So.
It would actually, we need to talk about this because it was my favorite moment of the whole day. So we were doing a sound check right here, and Laura was, we were talking, and she was just, gesticulating.
I get very excited.
Yeah, using her hands, and the stage manager came over, and she went just like this. I just want to let you know that you're sitting in front of a very, very expensive piece of art. As if in a sitcom. It was incredible.
I almost made Joe switch seats with me, just so. But I promise my brain will not actually physically explode, at least for the next, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. Can somebody from the venue let us know how much time we do have left? It's the time for our last song? Okay, let's do one more song.
Great.
Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Thank you all.
I'll bring it to you. I've got it. Well, I'm here with you. So.
Thank you so much. So this is a song that occurs in Act 2. It's at a point in the show when the women of Hate Nation have had enough, and they start to kind of feel the urge to rebel. And normally when we do this song, there's a lot of percussion happening, and I didn't bring any percussion with me, so I'll probably just stomp and clap and stuff. We'll see how that goes. No one freak out. I'm not throwing a tantrum. I'm just stomping and clapping in a musical way. I'm glad we had this talk. Thank you.
I'm supposed to act the way they want me to act, but I don't want to act that way, so revolution in the institution. Won't be told whose hand I can hold or which words I'm allowed to say. No, revolution in the institution. If I'm heading to the battle zone, I don't wanna go alone. Take a stand, hold my hand.
Been this way since I was a girl in a dress with a frilly bow. Revolution in the institution. Revolution in the institution. Play with Barbie, they all play with Barbie, but I want a G.I. Joe. Revolution in the institution. Revolution in the institution. Learn to cook, learn to clean, learn to breed. Skills I do not necessarily need. No! Revolution in the institution. Revolution in the institution. If I'm headed to the battle zone, I don't wanna go alone. See the crowd, take it down. Hey!
I'm supposed to dress the way they want me to dress, but I got other dresses in mind. So, revolution in the institution. Revolution in the institution. Why should we have to fit into roles? It's a man we don't know define. No! Revolution in the institution. Revolution in the institution.
Sugar and spice and everything nice comes at a hefty, hefty price. And today they'll all pay. Hey! 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 I'm supposed to love, love.